Part 139. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1386. Archmage Baebo, correction, the legendary title of Legendary Mage Baebo is not a particularly urgent matter. Well, the main reason is that Balba is not in Nevis, so he does not need to go out to socialize immediately and accept the congratulations of the mage community. Arcane and Magic do not need to immediately publish special pages to celebrate him. And here in the Elves, the density of Elves legends is much higher than in Nevis, so it seems less valuable. Moreover, because of their long lifespan and relatively Buddhist-like daily society, Elves do not have the same habits as humans. Each legend must have a specific title. At the current stage, Baebo's most urgent task is to write a thesis in seclusion. Write the thesis, work hard to write the thesis, the explosions he made together with the sun god, the experiments he did when he was torturing the well of eternity, and the insights from all his experiments. Write them all out and save a big manuscript. This opens up a new way for latecomers to become legends, and it deserves a big article. Burbo locked himself in his study, writing, painting, and calculating. He was so busy that even 3 meals had to be brought to the door. As for the banquet and celebration proposed by the Elves to celebrate the restart of the Well of Eternity and to celebrate him becoming a legend. Please. The banquet is not as important as the paper. Eat one more bite and one bite less, whether you eat dry pancakes with plain water or a carefully cooked meal. Are there any beautiful girls dancing together at the celebration? This is not important at all. Even if he really had a feast, would the ingredients made from high-level monsters be of great help to Legend's body? Even if I can dance with a beautiful elf girl at the celebration, does it mean that I can have a successful date, have a wonderful night, and even marry a beautiful elf wife? The teacher is an exception. Moreover, the teacher has been on Yangju Island for 10 years, not just a few months, working on a project. Archmage Baebo, who was very sure of his abilities, locked himself in his study and worked hard on writing. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, until the 5th day, he crawled out of the study with disheveled hair and handed a thick stack of manuscript papers to the Lord of Thunder. Fortunately, after becoming a legend, my body's self-sustainability has become much stronger. Even though his hair is unkempt, his face is not pale, shaky, his eyes are straight, his steps are sloppy, and he looks like a ghost at first glance. Ah, you are already a legend now. You don't need to send me any papers first. The Lord of Thunder did not accept the papers and waved his hand casually. No matter how talented and potential a disciple is, if he needs the guidance of a teacher and brings him to legend, it's time for him to start his own business. In fact, those disciples with low potential and almost exhausted advancement possibilities would have been kicked out early at level 12, 3, 14, or 5, or they would have gone out to seek opportunities. Only those disciples who have been able to advance and maintain strong vitality will have teachers who will continue to give guidance and provide resources. It is the dream of every legendary mage to have 1, 2, or even more legends emerge from his sect. Well, although the Lord of Thunder has only advanced to the legendary level of Baebo so far, the rest of his disciples are working hard in other places or in different dimensions, fighting for their own legendary road. Ah, Teacher Archmage Baebo smiled sheepishly. Even if you become a legend, you are still my teacher. Besides, you are also a reviewer of Arcana. Even if I am going to publish it on it, I have to ask you to read it first. The Lord of Thunder frowned slightly, then took the paper and read it carefully. While reading, I made some corrections on it. I need to explain something more clearly here. This paragraph, Steiner and I's paper, hasn't been released yet. Please wait until I communicate with them and let you write it clearly. Here, you don't need to write down the spell structure so clearly. You can just put it in the Thunderhorn Exchange library and wait for people to redeem it. The outlook here can actually be a bit bolder. Swish, Brush, 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 the flying handwriting soon covered the paper. Finally, the Lord of Thunder stood up and gently patted his disciple on the shoulder. It's already a legend, and it's time to establish your own business. I will fight for you in the parliament, in the school, and in the corresponding treatment and resources. How you go in the future is up to you. Teacher. Don't make a decision in a hurry, think about it carefully first. Moreover, there was a crackle of electric sparks, and the Lord of Thunder's voice suddenly became cheerful. You have arrived at Yangju Island anyway, so you might as well stay a little longer. Do as many things as you can, and get as many resources as you can get. When you go back and stay in Nevis, it will not be so easy to escape. Teacher. Each of the 8 major schools has legends stationed in Nevis, which not only ensures the combat effectiveness and defense of the Parliament headquarters, but also represents the interests of the school. In addition to the permanent ones, there are more legends in extremely distant places, or simply in different spaces, exploring, struggling, and fighting to obtain resources for the council and themselves. Without legendary leadership, there would be no way to develop those remote, resource-rich places, and there would even be no way to reach those alien spaces. Without high-intensity exploration and combat, those who have entered the legendary realm are more likely to be stuck in the early stages of the legend for the rest of their lives, unable to progress at all. After the Lord of Thunder advanced to legend, he had been stationed in Nevis for nearly 80 years, and then went out to fight with a veteran legend of the Evocation Department. After Archmage Baebo advances to legend, it can be seen with the naked eye that he will replace his teacher in Nevis. And the Lord of Thunder himself probably escaped and started exploring somewhere. Baebo, who has been in Nevis for decades and advanced from a young mage to level 19, naturally understands these principles. But when he was suddenly exposed, he was still a little unprepared. Teacher, are you leaving now? It's early. The Lord of Thunder leaned back in his chair and waved his hand easily. You have to wait until you are familiar with the power and responsibilities of the legend, and know how to walk the road ahead. By the way, since you are on Yangju Island, there are some resources you can use. What? Do you know why it is so difficult to advance to legend? After advancing to legend, why is it so difficult to take another step forward? That's because the whole world is only so big. The further you go up, the more you feel the subtle but real limitations. Under the legend, they are all ants, and the world does not care much about them. And stepping into the legend almost means eternal life, or, from a short-lived species to a long-lived species. Such an existence only takes but does not give. If things go on like this, it will cause the whole world to lose blood continuously. Therefore, if you want to become a legend, if you want to continuously advance beyond the legend, you must make a contribution to the entire world. Either, nurture the people, open up the wilderness, increase the spirituality of the world, and attract more power, just like what the glorious God sect did thousands of years ago. Or, explore the truth of the world and guide the way for future generations, just like the magicians do. Or, like those legends wandering in different spaces. If you continue to bring resources from other dimensions back to this world and push up the upper limit of this world, then the world will naturally give you feedback. Not everyone is like little Gretel, sitting at home treating his injuries, doing research and writing papers, while huge gifts from the world keep falling. Most legends, at least most magician legends, if they want to take a step forward, they must risk their lives in blood and fire, risking great dangers. Verbo nodded repeatedly. Some things are not legendary, but only vaguely known, and no one will tell you in detail. Telling you, knowing it, will not do much good. Only after setting foot in the legend will you get detailed information. And what his teacher told him was naturally the most real and important information. There is a good opportunity now. Isn't there a world rift next to Eternal Judgment Island? There is a small world stuck on it. If you can bridge this rift, or get some resources from the small world. Baebo's eyes have lit up. He clenched his fists subconsciously, his face full of excitement. Teacher, you are right. I will make preparations and mention them to them soon. With the elves on your back and that large group of legends on your back, exploring, fighting, and thinking of solutions with them is much safer and more efficient than venturing into a different space by yourself. You must seize this opportunity. Hey, thanks to Little Greet, thank him for bringing me to Evermeet Island, thank him for giving me the opportunity to participate in the Well of Eternity project, and gaining enough favor with the elves. Little Gretel is really his lucky star. It is a blessing to the entire Thunderhorn and the entire Nevis. Don't worry, the Lord of Thunder smiled and waved his hand. You are anxious, the elves are even more anxious. Just stay close to them and let go of their blood for hundreds and thousands of years. Who doesn't want to solve this problem quickly? They are begging you, not you begging them. Only by taking your time and talking slowly can you gain greater initiative. If you are too impatient, you will trap yourself. Now, you can revise the paper and send it back to Nevis. By the way, think of a better title for yourself. Archmage Baebo took a few deep breaths before regaining his composure, saluted the teacher, and quickly returned to his study. Within 2 days, a new paper, together with the news that he had advanced to legend, was directly transmitted to the Eagle Kingdom through the newly built Mage Tower on Yangju Island. From the Kingdom of the Eagle, Archmage Hines, who is here to replace Baebo and guard the Mage Tower. What, that guy Baebo, advanced to legend? How long has it been? After a trip to Evergem Island, he became a legend. Obviously, the project Little Gretel is researching is also related to me, Black Crow Swamp. We are also going to Evergem Island. Go to. Thanks, please call me William. Thank you for the 1,500 starting coins. Another reward from Apple, crying. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1387. Archmage Haynes was grieving and scratching the wall as he quickly sent the news and papers back to Nevis. In an instant, the entire parliament burst into joy. Another legend. Another legend. Magic Council, the 19th legend. Moreover, he is from the evocation system, he is young, has great potential, and has strong attack power, the exclusive spell of the advanced legend. Its power is equivalent to a full-strength strike of the ordinary legendary primary level. It is indeed a legend in Thunderhorn. The Magic Council has another powerful thug. By the way, this new legend, what is his unique name? The review committee members who were forwarded with the task flipped through the letters and papers of Archmage Baebo, correction, and Legend of Baebo from beginning to end, and then from the end to the beginning. After reading it twice, I have to regretfully admit one thing, the Legend of Balba seems to be a troublemaker in naming. Hey, why do you say yet? There is no spell name, and there is no proper name. It seems that they are all asking them to rack their brains and work hard to get the best one, or to try to get a few more, and then respectfully hold them over and ask this person to choose the one they like. Oh, it happens again, Elias Usman, the rotating review member of the Department of Energy Shaping, lamented and picked up letters and papers. Okay, I get it. Let's get the stuff from our school. We'll get 10 options for spell names and 10 options for exclusive names. We'll review them internally first, and then pass them on to Everlasting Island, asking the new legends to pick one. Hey, it seems like it was just now when she asked the Nordmark mage to go to Iolan Island to deal with the matter of a certain noble who refused to transfer the refugees not long after she took office. In just a few years, a mage under the Lord of Thunder has advanced to the legendary level, and the Nordmark mage has already reached level 14. She has been stuck at level 14 for so many years. He was stuck until his potential was exhausted and there was no hope of advancement, so he was left to be a judge. And that Nordmark mage, in just a few years, has seen his rapid rise from a level 1 mage to a level 14. Hey, flatten the corners of your mouth, flatten it. The illusion department member sitting opposite her couldn't help but stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her. We all know that you are very happy to have a legend in your school, but don't put it all on your face. Especially when you are pretending to lament, don't smile so happily. It should be said that when the gods close a door, they will open a window for him. Commissioner Elias Usman, who reached level 14 in magic and never went up, is still very talented in naming. In just one day, 20 names were submitted. Each of the judges present here had a copy and discussed enthusiastically. Eternal Blazing Sun? This is a good name. It is said that when Baebo's legendary unique spell is activated, a fireball rises in the sky, just like the sun. Ahem, let me remind everyone that the Energy Evocation Department already has a spell called Eternal Blazing Sunday. Then, the Heart of Blue? It is said that when the fireball rises, at the earliest moment, it flashes blue. This is an explosive type of spell. If you have to expand the range, it also favors the fire type. The blue color will make people misunderstand that it is an ice or water type spell. Isn't it just a misunderstanding? My family, before learning, always check the introduction. I don't even check, just exchange it directly. Well, it seems that I have advanced to a legendary mage. Such people have become extinct, right? So you just want to transfer this spell to your ice system, right? After a lot of joking, complaining, and a little serious discussion, the review committee finally selected 5 spell names and 5 legendary titles for the first round of selection by the legendary mages who stayed in Nevis. Regarding the name of the spell, the attitude of the legendary mages is that they don't even look at it, let him choose. It's another useless name. As for the legendary title, it is worthy of discussion. Lord of Nuclear Explosion? In their lineage, other than the Lord of so-and-so, don't they have any other way to name it? Besides, nuclear explosion is a new word, can't there be one that is easier to understand and remember? Why should we make it easier to understand and remember? It's easy for the council to make major breakthroughs in its research, so we should take this opportunity to let those little mages know about it. Holy Mushroom Messenger? How did you come up with this? He is from the plastic energy system, not the transformation system, and he is not from the nature religion next door. Although that fireball will explode a mushroom cloud. Who knows, maybe the mushroom cloud in the paper is too eye-catching and impressive. Actually, it's not bad. The name is very confusing. Moreover, as long as you see the mushroom cloud, you will know that the person is nearby at a glance. Sunwalker, finally comes a good one that sounds good and is easy to remember, but when the Holy See next door sees this, is it going to go crazy? If you go crazy, you'll go crazy. They're all legendary. Who doesn't have a chance? Who's not on their purification list? Bah, they're on the wanted list. Besides, the evocation system is famous for being good at fighting. As long as you give him some time to adapt, he's really not afraid. Them. By the way, when will Balbor return to Nevis? I didn't say. It seems like it will take some time to start a project on Elf Island. That's great. It's best if he stabilizes for 10 or 8 years before coming back. Once he comes back, he can directly take over. By the way, do we need to adjust the policy towards the glorious Holy See now? It's better not to do it for the time being. Although they have lost 2 legends and several legends are involved in the New World, there are still more local ones than us. Loki, stay Loki for a while, and wait for the new legend to grow up. Besides, it seems that Christine is about to advance. I don't know when she will come back. With the addition of a legend, Nevis is full of joy, only Black Crow Swamp is gloomy. Why? Why didn't they get any of this huge benefit? They are both level 18 archmages, and Baebo quickly advanced to level 19, and then quickly advanced to legend. The research institute where Archmage Heinz presided over the Eagle Kingdom has only now vaguely touched the threshold to advance to level 19. As for the legend, I don't know where it is yet. As for now, Archmage Heinz rushed to the Kingdom of the Sun to study the undead mummies among the descendants of the Sun God. His disciple, the 15th level Master Wendell Jennings, is in charge of the research institute. Even now, after struggling a lot, there is no sign of advancement. Is there such a big difference between being closer to the Lord of Plague and being further away? No. We must also try to get closer. Isn't Master Nordmark studying clone technique? Is there anything we can use? We bring our own dry food, no, we bring all our own research resources and manpower, and we must also participate in this project. Write him a letter. Write a letter to the Mage Tower over there. Nordmark Mages, be sure to check us out. If there are useful projects, please be sure to give them a chance. Not to mention that Black Crow Swamp is ready to make a move, and he is trying hard to write letters to seek opportunities. The Lord of Thunder, who was concerned by all the legends in Nevis, has turned his attention to Gretel. He only read half of the book full of formulas before he got inspiration from it and solved the last problem of heat constraints in the Well of Eternity. If you understand all these formulas thoroughly, what kind of progress can you make? The most important thing is that Gretel only gave him the phenomenon and did not point out the essence. Why does a strong magnetic force pass through tissue, penetrate moisture-containing tissue, vibrate slightly, and feed back a signal? What is the nature of the feedback signal? Rays, particle, or something else? The Lord of Thunder feels that although his accumulation is almost enough and he is almost able to advance, he does not exclude the possibility of studying more other things. Going from legendary level 2 to legendary level 3 is a hurdle, and from legendary level 3 to demigod is another big hurdle. To pass this hurdle, God knows how much accumulation is needed. Haven't you seen that their Lord Speaker, the eldest magician, has been saving up for so many years and is still spinning around at the 3rd level of legend? The Lord of Thunder is buried in a pile of formulas, writing and calculating, and is extremely busy every day. The more you calculate, the deeper you go, and the deeper you go, the more interesting it becomes. After making more than half of this bunch of formulas, he calculated the speed of the magnetic field signal and doubled it, twice, 10 times, or 20 times. Not only did his calculation speed up, but the calculation speed of the auxiliary tower spirit he carried, of course not an ordinary thing like Gretel, but a high-end thing suitable for legends, also accelerated exponentially. More importantly, the Lord of Thunder suddenly discovered that this formula can not only be used to calculate magnetic field signals, but can even be used to calculate sound signals. There is a limit to the distance that sound waves can travel in the air: 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Even if there is rolling thunder, it will not exceed 100 kilometers. However, the distance that electromagnetic signals can travel is much farther. 10 kilometers has just started, and 100 kilometers is not a problem. It is not too difficult to pass from the Mage Tower on Yangju Island to the Mage Tower in Eagle Kingdom. More importantly, using electromagnetic waves to communicate consumes much less energy than using the Earth's magic network to communicate. For one communication between the Mage Tower and the Mage Tower, if the magic network is used, at least one high-level crystal must be burned. If electromagnetic wave communication is used, one low-level crystal can support at least 100 transmissions. As for the changes in electromagnetic waves, as the Lord of Thunder, if he can't handle the electromagnetic waves well, he can jump directly from the world tree without using any defense or flight spells, and fall to the bottom. The principle is understood, and the conversion of electromagnetic waves and sound waves is clarified. All that is needed to write this formula into the magic array is a little skill. The Lord of Thunder only experimented for 3 days and iterated this magic circle 3 times until it could be burned into magic equipment and installed on the top of the tower lightly and skillfully. As for the electromagnetic wave excitation device, that is even more convenient. The image, structure, and description were passed to the other side. Soon, the Mage Tower in the Eagle Kingdom was equipped with exactly the same set. The wind is gentle and the sun is beautiful, the sky is clear and the air is clear. The devices on both sides were turned on at the same time. After a buzzing sound, a voice from the opposite side was heard, slightly nervous and trembling. "Hello? Hello? Hello? Dear Lord of Thunder, are you there? Thanks to @book friend 11040919374728 for the reward of 100 starting coins. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1388. Sound can be converted into electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves can also be converted into sound. This discovery has greatly increased the frequency of information exchange between Mage Towers, especially between Nevis and the Mage Towers in the New World. Of course, it is not possible to publish a paper. For such a long paper, you have to read it from beginning to end to ensure that the message received by the other party is correct. The possibility is almost non-existent. Not to mention, for slightly more complex papers, there will be images, charts, animations and the like. Just like Greet, the paper on chromosomes that was sent before contained a lot of chromosome pictures. How complicated it was. Don't say you can't read aloud. Even if you can read, when will you do it? Adenine, guanine, thymine, uracil, thymine, guanine, guanine. Just thinking about it makes my eyes darken. Not to mention, many proteins need to additionally describe their spatial structure. Therefore, for the time being, the only way to chat and exchange information between the Mage Tower and the Mage Tower is through this electromagnetic sound conversion spell. For example, which mage will be sent by the Parliament to the New World and which Mage Tower will be stationed there. For example, the shipping schedule between the New World and the Kingdom of Kent. For another example, what natural disasters occurred in the New World and the Old World, which ship capsized, and which port may have a storm near it. Stuart Quinn walked out of the exchange office in the White Tower with his head lowered, touched the mage badge on his chest, and sighed subconsciously. After a month of busy work, I ran 2 tasks and only earned 3 contribution points. Coupled with the monthly allowance issued by the council as a first-level mage, his income this month brings a total of 4 contribution points. The black market price is 1 contribution point, which can be exchanged for 11 gold coins. 4 contribution points can only be exchanged for 44 gold coins. He had just gotten married and had no savings at all, so he relied entirely on his monthly income for support. The family's daily expenses such as renting a house, eating, and transportation require a fixed 5 gold coins. The remaining 39 gold coins are not enough to buy a better set of distilling vessels. If you don't have distilling vessels, you can't make potions. If you can't make potions, you can't make money by selling potions. If you can't make money by selling potions, you can only continue to run outside the city, come and go in the wind and rain, and take on those cheap tasks. Is there any way to collect 4 more gold coins? The set of distilling vessels he is interested in costs 45 gold coins. 2 gold coins are used to buy raw materials, and 1 gold coin is left for maneuvering. That would be great. Master Mage. This Master Mage. While he was lost in thought, a call suddenly sounded in his ears. Stuart Quinn came back to his senses and saw a bright, unfamiliar smiling face. "Can you sell me the contribution points?" I will pay 11.5 gold coins for each contribution point. Hey, the price has gone up. Stuart Quinn was delighted. Before he could nod his head, there was the sound of footsteps banging, 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 and several more businessmen gathered around him. I offer 11 gold coins and 6 silver coins. I offer 11 gold coins and 8 silver coins. Sell it to me. I'll pay you 12 gold coins. Stuart Quinn sold his contribution points with satisfaction, took 48 gold coins, and went straight to the alchemy shop. Well, he has the distilling utensils and the raw materials. From tomorrow on, he doesn't have to take risks on missions. And the merchant who got the contribution points from him was also satisfied with a crystal card, a special offer from the White Tower. The merchant without a magic badge could only use this crystal card to pay for the contribution points, and rushed to another trading area. There was a crowd of people in front of the window. A dozen fat men crowded around and raised the crystal cards in their hands. I need the price of goods from Barity Port. I need the cargo prices, weather conditions, and the number of merchant ships entering the port at Callian Port. I need the Enura collar in the New World. This year's wheat harvest situation. Information is money. Information is life. For businessmen, being able to know information 1 day, 10 days, or 1 month in advance means making more money, or losing less money than others. What? You can't use gold coins to buy information, only contribution points? Buy. The official price of the council is 10 gold coins in exchange for 1 contribution point. Unless the relationship is particularly good, there is a price but no market, and the exchange is theoretically not open. If you buy it privately from a magician, the price is another matter. After all, if you spend 1 gold coin here, you will earn more than 10 gold coins in the future. Those who don't know that they can buy information, those who have no channels to buy information, those who directly send ships from the old continent to the new continent, there is no way to buy information from the Parliament. They deserve to pay to death. Stuart Quinn was satisfied. James de Locknight was more satisfied. As the commander of the Parliament's Third Fleet, this was the first time for him to fight such a smart battle. The latest communication magic array has been installed on his flagship and several large ships in the fleet. Although magic crystals are still needed for energy supply, this is no longer a problem for the large ships of the Parliament. After installing the communication magic circle, there was a steady stream of news coming from the rear. If there is a storm nearby, it is best to anchor temporarily and wait before leaving. When can we arrive at the port? The port has prepared supplies in advance and supplies will start as soon as we dock. Wherever the enemy fleet arrived, according to the route they took, they should have been hit by a storm, and they could take advantage of it. The most comfortable moment is when fighting. Magic is everywhere on the battlefield, and mutual interference messaging is a necessary process, but it cannot interfere with the latest electromagnetic communication. Skewa. Come back with your detachment. Grey Swift. Turn 30 degrees east by north. Focus on the opponent's manticore. Spotted Puffin. Cover artillery fire. Cover. Let Black Loon rush over. Hey, direct roaring in electromagnetic communication is much more convenient than the intermittent messaging technique and wind communication technique, and compared to the more troublesome and slower semaphores. This naval battle was fought so smoothly, with the opponent completely suppressed. The Third Fleet sank 2 of the enemy's main ships, captured 3, and returned triumphantly. Half a month later, the Brolin Kingdom received the news that the kingdom's navy commander smashed 2 wine glasses on the spot. What's going on? Those losers have bigger ships and stronger people than their opponents. Why can't they be defeated? Check. With the spread of electromagnetic communication magic, the balance of strength between the Kent Kingdom and the glorious Holy See is also quietly changing. As for the magic circle developed by the Lord of Thunder, How can it be miniaturized and made into magic accessories for magicians to carry around? How to convert images into electromagnetic waves, so that one communication can carry more information. How to increase the intensity of electromagnetic waves so that you can go directly from Nevis to the kingdom of the eagle, or even directly to the kingdom of the sun, without needing to transit in the mage tower. Even, how to encrypt information to avoid leakage. Naturally, the Parliament has issued bounties on various topics, and a large number of magicians have come forward to study them. Those of the conjuration system, the alchemy system, the illusion system, especially those of the plasticity system, one by one, like sharks that smelled the smell of blood, couldn't wait to pounce on them. New topic. New direction. Being able to study and understand it not only means a lot of contribution points and a lot of arcane points, but also means that the possibility of advancement is even greater. It's so easy to have this opportunity. The Parliament points out the direction and provides funds to support research. Why don't you hurry up and grab the project? If Greet knew that the Parliament was carrying out electromagnetic communication research in full swing, he would definitely ask the teacher. Do you want to become the master of electromagnetism? Or, do you want to transfer to the communication master? However, he didn't know that, and the Lord of Thunder disdained to tackle this kind of subject. He just got excited and spent 3 days studying it. After I found something I could use, I immediately put it down and returned to the original topic. How to vibrate the magnetic field and explore human tissue quickly and well. It seems like a simple topic, but only when you actually start to do it, you realize how big of a pit it is. Where should the magnetic field lines be placed? The human body is uneven. Should the magnetic field lines be made into a cylinder, or can they be gathered close to the human body? How long is the time between two shocks? It's too short, and there's no time to collect information, let alone calculation. It's too long, that little bastard said. It's hard for people to hold their breath, and it's even harder to reflect the constant changes in the heart during a heartbeat. How should the gradient of the magnetic field be set? And, the most troublesome thing. Why do we receive different signals when the magnetic field passes through the tissue and oscillates? What is the nature of this signal? How does it work? The Lord of Thunder is obsessed with research and cannot extricate himself. And Gretel didn't rush him. The principle of nuclear magnetic resonance seems simple, and the research on it is endless. In addition to the most basic one-dimensional NMR, there are also two-dimensional NMR and multi-dimensional NMR. In addition to ordinary examinations, there are also various enhanced examinations, water imaging examinations, marking blood flow and blood supply, and showing the concentration of metabolites. Process various black and white grayscales, deal with artifacts. Every topic deserves a group of scientific researchers, or AR/U0026D team of a large company, to spend a lifetime studying diligently. Teacher, come on. The more thorough your research, the more detailed information I'll get here. Also, how can NMR pass through the seal of the Great Prince, or get information as quickly as possible after unlocking the seal? This is also your task. No rush, no hurry. 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, or 2, you take your time. I also happen to be able to research how to perform surgery for tetralogy of Fallout. The earliest batch of animal models have only been raised for 2 months, and they are not yet old enough for the eldest prince to undergo surgery. Gretel can only continue to simulate in the Emerald Dream. First, use limited wish technique to try to treat the Fallout quadruple pig. Secondly, after recording the effective process of the limited wishing technique, follow this process and try surgical treatment. Hypothermic extracorporeal circulation, first time, start. First, lower body temperature, make eye slurry, anesthetize, immerse in eye slurry. Use freezing ray to freeze the ice cubes and crush them as much as possible to make a paste. Add a little water, immerse the Farlow pig in it, and monitor the rectal temperature closely. 35 degrees, 33 degrees, 31 degrees, 29 degrees, 27 degrees, 25 degrees. Oh no, Farlow's quadruple pig has ventricular fibrillation. Or should I not use deep hypothermia? Try shallow hypothermia? Or should my heart keep beating, directly block the blood flow, use therapy to treat it, and highlight the word fast? Thanks to Ed for the 1,500 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1389. Every technical path and every difficulty on every technical path requires a lot of practice. In the Emerald Dream, Gretel captured a Farlow pig, fixed it, anesthetized it, opened its chest, and cut its pericardium. Under direct vision, quickly block the blood flow of the heart, cut open the heart, and initiate treatment. Ventricular septal defect, grow it, grow it, grow it. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The time for safely blocking blood flow to the heart is very limited, and the shorter it is, the less damage it will do to the human body. Treatment, hurry up, be sure to repair the ventricular septum quickly. However, when the light of the treatment technique fell, the ventricular septum did not move. The defect was still as big as it was before. The dead look on his face is, I am good, I am already good, I don't need to grow any longer. So this is the flaw of therapy. Fresh wounds grow quickly. If a wound that has been healed, even if it heals incorrectly, is expected to grow again, I'm sorry, the body's instinct is to think I have already grown, I don't need to grow anymore. Greet sighed inwardly. After waiting for 3 seconds and seeing no changes, I immediately launched plan number 2. The scalpel lightly cut out the ventricular septal defect, cutting an outer layer of less than 0.5 millimeters. He raised the tip of the knife and threw the cut piece away to prevent it from staying in the heart and causing obstruction. Then, the light of the healing technique fell again. Grow upward. Go down. Grow sideways. Give me a breath and let it grow up until the wounds on all sides touch together. Only then can it be considered healed. Fortunately, this time, Farlow's heart responded to his order. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 15 seconds, the interventricular compartments cut open by the tip of the knife grow and close in the middle from all 4 sides, and finally grow together tightly. Gretel poked it with the tissue forceps transformed from the mage's hands, then clamped it again and looked at it. He confirmed that there were no gaps or leaks, and he breathed a sigh of relief. The treatment is then wiped out to guide the outer wall of the heart to heal, free up blood flow, and guide the pericardium to heal. Looking directly at her, her heart was beating vigorously and steadily. Not bad, this treatment is very fast and the effect is very good. Gretel gave himself a thumbs up. The healing technique continued to fall, allowing the chest cavity of the Farlow quadruple pig to heal and stopping the anesthesia. In an instant, the unlucky pig began to howl on the operating table. Very good, very energetic. Let me take you down for a walk to see if your movements are normal, your food intake is normal, and your body temperature is normal. Gretel waved his hand, and several powerful mage hands lifted the pig, carried it outside the operating room door, and placed it on the ground. In an instant, the half-cured Farlow piglet howled and ran outside impatiently. Greet ran after him, but he felt like he couldn't outrun it. You are not completely cured yet. The pulmonary artery is still narrow. Your right ventricle is still a little hypertrophic. What kind of trouble are you going to make if you rush so fast? I won't kill you to eat. Greet cursed while speeding up his pace. Fortunately, he installed a goalkeeper. As soon as Farlow the pig ran out of the laboratory gate, he was slapped to the ground by the tiger guarding the gate. Well done. It didn't kill it or even hurt it, which was really great. Gretel scratched the tiger's chin and gave it another piece of natural strength. God knows that he simulated it in the emerald dream. Give it or not, it goes from left pocket to right pocket. Take that free-running Farlow pig back to the laboratory, and check it one by one for electrocardiogram and cardiac ultrasound to confirm that the heart rhythm, cardiac myoelectricity, and cardiac blood flow are basically normal. As for whether the newly grown ventricular septum has conductive beams or something, Greet didn't know. Fortunately, don't delay using it if you have it. As long as the heart blood flow can be diverted normally, it doesn't matter whether it can conduct. Of course, the problem of pulmonary stenosis has not yet been solved. There's no rush, come one by one. At least, using surgery and therapy to treat tetralogy of Fallot, including cutting open the heart, can still keep up with the speed. Greet cheered himself up and continued his research. After the ventricular septum is done, pulmonary artery stenosis is done again. After the treatment of pulmonary artery stenosis, there are a lot of other topics. Other complications, such as aortic stenosis, outflow tract vegetations, severe aortic valve insufficiency, coronary artery malformation. One by one, they were treated surgically. With the treatment, there is no need to suture, which saves a lot of time. At least, during the time when the blood flow to the heart is blocked, there is time to cut open the heart, do a project, and then use therapeutic techniques to pace the heart. After a large chest opening, try minimally invasive surgery. For example, to treat pulmonary artery stenosis, a small incision can be used instead of a median sternal incision. For example, to treat a ventricular septal defect, you can use interventional surgery to insert a vine, cut a circle around the ventricular septum, and then use treatment techniques to guide the growth of the ventricular septum. Gretel made a lot of experiments in the Emerald Dream. It wasn't until he consumed all the Farlow pigs that had been raised for more than a month that he felt confident enough to repeat the experiment in reality. The ventricular septal defect repair surgery with a beating heart, the first experiment, begins. Hey, there is no need to cut the patch, no need to sew the patch up, no need to consider the spacing and tightness of each stitch, no need to worry about blood leakage, blood clots, or even how to do the patch. What a blessing! One healing spell and everything is done. In reality, a batch of the Farlow quadruple pig models were quickly consumed after raising them for a month or two. Gretel has performed 30 verification surgeries in a row, and after achieving a 100% success rate, please come and see. This kind of heart disease can be cured by following these steps. It's fast, safe, and effective. I've tried it all, so, can I treat the eldest prince with this method, already? Or, if we design this method and use the limited wish-making technique to guide it, can we cure the eldest prince's disease? Several elders exchanged looks. They can understand Gretel's treatment methods, to be precise, they can understand Gretel's treatment methods while explaining them. However, to judge whether the treatment for the eldest prince is effective, invite Harold Starry Night to come over. After a long silence, Elder Emmett replied in a deep voice. Everyone around nodded. That's right, for this kind of thing, you still have to invite a prophet. Harold is the best prophet, he has been following up on the treatment plan of the eldest prince before. Gretel. By following up, do you mean using prophecy to take a look every time before treatment? A large group of people went to visit this expert in prophecy. The place where Elder Harold lives is not in the Magic Academy or by the lake, but on the Holy Mountain, closest to the top of the World Tree. I built a small house on the branches near the top of the tree, slept during the day, and went to the top of the World Tree at night to look up at the stars, peer into the course of time through the changes in the stars, and make predictions. Over in Nevis, the big guys in the prophecy and astrology branch must be envious of him. Greet thought silently. Although there are not as many magic circles as the star dome to support, the world tree is so tall. High above the flowing clouds, undisturbed by climate change, you can see the spotless starry sky every night. Are you going to use the limited wishing technique to treat the prince again? Harold's starry night frowned slightly, still lying on the ground, or in other words, lying on the wooden trunk at the top of the world tree, motionless. Papers are flying around you, and invisible pen and ink are dotted on them, recording the trajectory of the stars tonight. The pair of white and black eyes rolled over, as if they had seen them, but also as if they had not seen them. I have made several prophecies before, but neither the current healing technique nor the limited wishing technique can help him. The curse on the eldest prince is too strange. Although it is a pity, it is better to maintain the status quo. There is no way to lift the curse, so it's best not to come to me and make a prophecy, which is very expensive. That was the case before, but now, we have made some progress. Elder Amat sat down next to him with his knees in his arms, and then lay down so as not to block the prophet's view of the starry sky. He was immediately kicked out. We have preliminary researched the detailed structure of the eldest prince's heart and the method of guiding the heart to grow into a normal structure. Look, here are the instructions. He flicked his fingers slightly, and a piece of light and shadow unfolded, revealing Gretel's operation process and instructions. Harold's starry night lay motionless, breathing softly, as if he had fallen asleep. The light and shadow played again and again. Suddenly, the prophet made a sound and sat up. With such a process, it's worth making another prophecy. Well, wait a minute, I'll prepare the materials and come over in 3 days. 3 days later, the full moon shone brightly and stars filled the sky. Greet, Elder Emmett, Elder Fahim, as well as Princess Norrell and Her Majesty the Queen, were all present and watched him cast the spell with bated breath. Harold's starry night was wearing a plain white robe without decoration, walking on the top of the world tree, with smoke curling around him. All kinds of flowers, herbs, spices, and magic potion powders were continuously thrown into the fire. As he sang, the smoke rose, and a rough human shape was outlined. Finally, the queen stepped forward, pricked her finger, and dropped a drop of blood into the smoke. Harold's starry night's chant suddenly rose to a higher pitch. The silver moon's light suddenly became strong, almost condensing into a pillar of light, and fell into the smoke human form. In an instant, the smoke shrank, stirred, and solidified, revealing a faint colored light. The outlines became more and more distinct, and you could almost see the prince's smiling face. Then, the light of the infinite wishing technique flashed in the smoke figure, stirring the heart in the chest. Did you make it? Thanks to @virus advent for the 100 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1390. Chapter 1385, Let's cut into a Demon King. Monthly ticket adds 5 updates. Grand Elder Amat and several legendary elders stared at the smoke figure attentively. 20 years have passed since the last time Harold's starry night made a prophecy to save the prince. In 20 years, this was the first time that a plan had gained his approval and made him willing to make predictions. After all, peering into the long river of time consumes not only his physical strength, energy, and magic power, but may even be his lifespan. The elders subconsciously held their breath, fearing that they would take a big breath and blow away the smoke figure. It must succeed, they secretly prayed, this time, it must succeed. The queen silently squeezed her daughter's hand and stared at the smoke expectantly. For more than 200 years, we have had hopes and disappointments, hopes and disappointments. Until now, when there is a new treatment plan and someone dives into it with enthusiasm, she almost loses the courage to smile and respond to the other person, then please give it a try. Can it succeed this time? Is this time the closest to success? After all, in the past 200 years, Countless attempts at treatment had been made using magic, and magic. And Greet took a completely different path. This was the first time she had seen such a big child dare to disembowel his body and operate a knife directly on his heart. Moreover, after using the knife, he still lived peacefully. Gretel didn't have so many twists and turns in her heart. He stared at the human figure in the smoke without blinking, and unconsciously leaned forward a little, and then leaned a little further, as if he wanted to stare through the human figure with his eyes. The head came out, the body came out, the limbs came out. The thorax, diaphragm, heart, lungs, and aorta are all a bit looming, the heart is not too big, and the right ventricle is not obviously hypertrophic. The simulation is not very accurate. Tisk, if the simulation is inaccurate, can the accuracy of the prediction be guaranteed? As he was thinking about it, he saw the smoke billowing rapidly in the center. The silver light is rich, like substance, and penetrates into the center of the virtual heart one after another. Then the light and shadow were chaotic and boiling. Greet stared hard, unable to discern the heart surgery process from the mushy mosaic. He took a step closer, then another step, trying not to put his head into the smoke. The silver light in front of him was like boiling, and little black shadows were churning, constantly canceling each other out with the silver light, and there was even a slight crackling sound. Finally, there was a loud sound, and the smoke exploded and dispersed. Gretel took a step back and looked back subconsciously, and saw the old prophet lying on the ground, breathing heavily. There were big beads of sweat on his cheeks and forehead. What happened? He wanted to ask, but he could already see the queen's lips tightening and her body leaning softly on the princess's shoulder. Several elders looked disappointed and hesitated to speak. No need to ask any more, just looking at their faces, you know that this plan will definitely not work. The curse is still too strong. After a while, Harald Zingy got up from the ground and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Raising his hand, a piece of light and shadow quietly unfolded under the starry sky at the top of the world tree. The magical power of the limited wishing spell turned into a ray of light and flew into the patient's chest. Cut out a piece of the interventricular septum, move the cut out part, and then guide the defect to grow rapidly. 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 5 millimeters, suddenly, a bit of black light rose up, entangled with the light of the limited wishing technique. The black light was extremely tiny, yet extremely tough, firmly blocking the spread of the silver light. Silver light and black light intertwined with each other, one ebbing and the other ebbing. Suddenly there was a crackling sound, and a small gap was blown out in the growing room partition. The powerful healing force quickly followed up to make up for this gap. However, the black light did not only exist in one place. As the treatment continued, various parts of the heart lit up with little bits of black light. Gretel narrowed his eyes subconsciously. I saw dot-like and strip-like black light-colored spots scattered everywhere on the atria, ventricles, valves, and blood vessels. The silver light spreads, trying to heal the wound and guide the growth of the defective part. However, there is a constant black light blocking these silver lights, crackling, crackling, crackling. Finally, there was a snap, and a gap exploded in the aorta. Before the silver light had time to make up for it, a stream of blood shot out, and immediately after, the entire humanoid figure in the smoke dispersed. The power of the curse resists the power of nature, Harald Zingy panted, his voice ethereal. If this curse cannot be solved, neither the healing technique nor the limited wishing technique will be effective, and may even bring additional danger to the patient. Thank you for your prediction. The queen looked disappointed, but she still bowed and thanked the prophet. After seeing Elder Harald off, she turned to Gretel and forced a smile. Don't be sad, it's not your fault. The nature of this curse is too high, I have no choice but to hope for the grace of Ms. Silvermoon. Lady Silvermoon? The life of elf faith? Moon god? The god who created the elves? Is she a god that exists in reality, like the sun god Virakaka, who has been elevated to a higher level of life, or is she a purely virtual god like the god of nature, the god of war, and the goddess of springs? Did she come? Did you show any miracles? Greet really had a lot of things to say, but it was hard to say a single word to a grieving mother and to a queen of the elves, probably the highest priest of Lady Silvery Moon. He bowed his head, greeted the queen, and said in a deep voice, "Don't be sad. If there are difficulties or problems, we can just continue to study. Does this curse come from the Demon King?" "Yes." "Don't study this rashly. The Demon King's power is of a very high nature. Be careful of it contaminating you." Gretel bowed slightly to signal that he was heard. "Curse? What exactly is a curse? No matter how strong the curse is, it will fall on the entity. Didn't I have a large piece of Demon Lord? Let's go take a look first and find out more." "You want to try to dissect the Demon King?" The first reaction of Elder Fahim, who was responsible for guiding and caring for Gretel, was that the child had finally given up and chosen a new subject. The second reaction is his attack power enough? Can he move? Is his defense strong enough? When you stand in front of the Demon Lord, when you perform an anatomy, or when you are splashed with demon body fluids, will you be injured or contaminated? Try it, give it a try. Let me know what the devil's body structure is like and what the nature of its energy is. Maybe it will be helpful in treating the eldest prince." Elder Fahim directly threw him a copy of Demonology. Since the elves moved to Yangju Island, they have been blocking the entrance to the Great Rift for thousands of years, and they have killed enough demons to pile up into mountains. Throw them all into the lake at the entrance of the Magic Academy. I'm afraid the lake will be filled several times. In this process, it is inevitable that some low-level demons will be caught and dissected. It is not a problem at all that the experiments done by predecessors and the treatises written fill a room in the library. Boy, before you dissect the Demon King, read all these books for me. Gretel went to read without any objection. To start a research topic, the first thing to do is of course to read relevant literature. This is the same in other worlds. If you roll up your sleeves and work directly without reading previous works or literature, that is not called pioneering spirit, that is called stupidity. Fortunately, the teacher was still addicted to MRI and couldn't extricate himself. If he gets better over there, come over and let him know that the prince can be examined. I will say, "Teacher, there may be a problem with this treatment path and it cannot be cured." Will the teacher beat me to death? At worst, will they hang me up and give me a beating? I hope not. I hope the teacher, for the sake of the elf princess, will not mind if I bring him all the way here. Gretel studied hard and read hard. It can be seen from the previous accounts that the demon's body also has a physical body, not an incorporeal body. The carapace is extremely hard, much harder than the bodies of humans or elves, and feels like metal or gems. Greet secretly reminded himself to take a sample and test it to see if it could detect metal elements or silicon elements. The organs in the body are very different from humans. Moreover, even the delicate internal organs are extremely tough, and when cut, it feels like cutting into rock or metal. The nature of energy is very different from, and even conflicts with, the energy of this world. If the internal organs are taken out, they will burn quickly if they are not isolated and protected. If animals contaminated with demonic flesh and blood are not removed as soon as possible, they may quickly mutate, with certain characteristics of demons appearing on the surface and in the body. The last item attracted great attention from Greet. Is the so-called curse just another way of saying demonization? What do the specific characteristics look like? After reading the information in this room, Greet geared up to find Elder Fahim. This time, the elder did not stop him, but took him to the place where the Demon King's body was stored and protected him. Come on, cut it. Gretel. The body of the Demon Lord that belongs to him is extremely large in size, just placed there. Lying flat on the ground, higher than his head. It was at least 3 meters wide, and it was a dense, dark hole with countless muscles and internal organs entangled in it. As for the length, it might be 5 meters, maybe more. In short, Greed felt that what he needed to dissect this thing was not a scalpel, but a large cutting machine. Even a handheld electric saw can't cut it. The elder patiently unlocked one layer of shielding, and then another layer of shielding. Gretel took a deep breath, sent out a dark gold skeleton, one of the skeleton team given by His Excellency the Immortal, and walked in with a scalpel and utensils. Stepping into the pool of blood inside, there was a squeaking sound, and the dark gold skeleton was wrapped in black fire, with bone spurs growing randomly on its body, and it instantly stopped obeying. Gretel. This can't be used. It broke before it was even used. I am sending it back now and asking the Immortal Lord to exchange it for me. Is this possible? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1391. Cutting up the Demon King was obviously beyond Gretel's ability, at least, it was beyond Gretel's current ability. After destroying a dark gold skeleton, Gretel could only pack it up and prepare to find time to send it back. There is no need to mention the matter of asking for a replacement. Even if Black Crow Swamp is relatively tolerant of him, it can't be used to gain face like this. However, Black Crow Swamp might be interested in this kind of dark gold skeleton that has been mutated with the aura of the Demon Lord, and might be willing to use it for any project. As for Gretel himself, he could only scrape off some of the Demon King's stained blood, minced meat, strange tissue fragments, and unknown things from the dark gold skeleton, and pack them carefully. How do these things reflect the pollution of living things? Does it affect DNA? If it affects, does it change the expression of chromosomes, or insert certain segments into chromosomes? Gretel knows nothing. Since you don't know, then you have to try the same thing. Grow more bottles of fruit flies. Put these pieces close to the fruit fly bottles and observe the changes in these fruit flies. Grow some more frogs, tadpoles. During the process of several metamorphoses, obvious changes are likely to occur, which can be used for observation. Mammals can't be left behind either. Should we raise mice or rabbits? Or pigs? Forget it, we've already raised so many rabbits, let's keep raising them. Gretel gave the order, and a large number of elves went to work. Building a house, building a house, building a defensive barrier, building a barrier, preparing to care for the animal, preparing to care for the animal. After studying this period of time with Gretel, it seems that there has indeed been progress. Although they haven't reached the threshold of advancement yet, haven't Udian and Abalba successfully stepped into the legend? If you work hard, they can do it. Everyone has a goal and everyone has hope. Only the oak staff loudly protested. What? We raised so many again. We have to test the chromosomes one by one again. We need me to calculate again. I'm only level 14. Shut up. You are already level 14, Gretel shouted back in the sea of consciousness. When you were at level 13, you were told that your level was too low and you couldn't move, so you had to advance. Now that you've advanced once, you can finally move. If you keep being lazy, I'll contract a wisdom tree. No, 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 no. No contract allowed. No, the oak staff made a loud noise in great sea of consciousness. You are not allowed to have other trees. You are not allowed to have other trees. Leave them all to me. Mine. 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 While making noise, they threw images wildly. Gretel looked attentively and couldn't help but shake his head. In the image projected by the oak stick, large and small, one by one, Crystal clear fruits are dotted all over the branches. Some are in the shape of acorns, some are in the shape of apples, some are in the shape of grapefruits, some have thick skins, and some look so thin that they can spurt water when poked. But inside every fruit, there are densely packed runes that are constantly spinning, floating, and sinking. The meaning of the oak rod is clear: let him bear fruit, let him work hard to bear fruit. The more fruit you bear, the greater your ability to calculate. Of course, to bear fruit requires sufficient energy supply, sufficient calculation methods and calculation processes. In the former, in terms of resources, Gretel lacks everything and can reach out to the elves for anything he needs. In the latter case, Gretel was cruel and fed the formula booklet of Fourier transform directly to the oak staff. Oak staff? No matter how much the oak staff protested, the calculation had to be done. Drosophila can reproduce for one generation in 10 to 12 days. They lay eggs and hatch in 22–24 hours. After hatching, they molt twice and become third and star larvae. The larvae pupate in 4 days and can lay eggs 2 days after emergence. In other words, at every stage, there will be changes. In order to closely monitor, at each stage, we must observe, measure, feel, record, kill a batch, measure chromosomes, and then compare it with the previous data and the previous stage. Oh, and there are ordinary fruit flies. The fruit flies fed with extraordinary fruit juice have been fed into extraordinary fruit flies. In order to ensure the accuracy of the experimental results, every situation must be considered, and each type of fruit fly must be separated. Measurement. The oak staff calculated with ecstasy. It was poked at the door of the laboratory and liberated into the shape of a big tree. The 14 main branches stretched out as much as possible. Each main branch was covered with lush leaves, almost covering the entire laboratory. The rhizomes penetrate deeply into the ground, desperately sucking nutrients from the soil. The elves even dug a few pits far away on the side, so that they could bury resources at any time, and then covered them with floating soil, allowing the oak staff to absorb them freely. The fruits hanging among the branches and leaves were buzzing, and trembling without stopping for a moment. If it were not hung on a tree but enclosed in a chassis, Greet would be worried that it would overheat one day and suddenly burn out. Under such intense calculations and research, Gretel soon discovered that the devil's breath did have an impact on the chromosomes of fruit flies. Of course, the specific impacts are quite varied. In the map fed back to him by the oak staff, strange places could be seen in almost any chromosome or any segment. Then, what do these strange places mean? Which section allows fruit flies to become extremely large, increasing their size by more than 3 or 5 times? Which section allows a fruit fly to grow 2 more legs or 1 more mouth part? Which section allows fruit flies to grow dark, armor-like wings? Which period can allow a fruit fly to change its feeding habits and suddenly start to eat meat, pounce on the larvae of its kind, or even pounce on the adults, chewing, eating and drinking? Even, which section of the chromosome is particularly sensitive to energy and the force of nature? Greet really wanted to catch a live fruit fly and put it under a microscope to stimulate them and let them use extraordinary power while observing their chromosomal changes. However, the extraordinary fruit flies he fed with juice were extraordinary, but they did not have any special powers, let alone use these extraordinary powers. Gretel waited eagerly for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and finally decided to find some magical beasts with extraordinary power to observe. It's best to have a large quantity so that you won't feel bad if you die. Of course, it would be best if you could pull out a section and put it under a microscope for direct observation. You want such a magical beast. Idion scratched his head, Idion turned in circles, and Idion paced back and forth. What a pity, even though he was also from a magic academy, over the past few hundred years, the science of warcraft, the classification and characteristics of warcraft, have basically been returned to the teacher. Now that I think about it, all I can think of are the monsters in the forest. If you have a lot of daily contact, remember it more clearly. If you have less daily contact, remember it more vaguely. For those of you who don't have any daily contact, who are you? Such a list of Warcraft would obviously not be useful if it were moved to Everlasting Island. There are some common monsters in the Great Forest that are not found in Evergem Island, and there are some common monsters that are common in Evergem Island that are not found in the Big Forest. Wait for me to think about it, wait for me to look through the book, yes, look through the book. The result of flipping through the book was that Idian did not appear in front of Gretel for 3 whole days. On the 4th day, he appeared in front of Gretel, commanding a large barrel in high spirits. "Hey, little Gretel, look what I brought for you." A fishy smell of sea hit my face. Gretel sniffed and spread his hands listlessly. "Oh, Idian, don't tell me you went fishing. How long have these guys been transported from the sea? Are they half dead? Or are they all dead? That's impossible. These things may be alive, and besides, I kept changing their water on the way." Idian happily directed the assistants in the laboratory to run in and out. "Get the vat, get the water tank, get the glass jar." He took out a 1-foot-high water bag and poured seawater into it one by one. "Look, this is what I caught, sea wasp. A big one, with a dozen smaller ones under the umbrella, dozens of grandchildren, hundreds of great-grandchildren. This water bag is obviously also a piece of space equipment, and the seawater inside seems to be endless." While pouring water, Idian directed the vines to penetrate into the vat, and said accurately, once and again. One by one, they were translucent and umbrella-shaped, with many stringy strips trailing underneath. The things were as big as cup mouths, palms, and bowls. They were stuffed into jars and boxes of various sizes. "Little Greet, look, this thing can control water, shoot water arrows, and when it gathers too much, it can also call out tides and storms. If you pull out a little bit of these ribbons below, you can put them under a microscope and observe them. You may not need to cut them off. Are they suitable for your use?" Gretel forced a smile at him. The objects to be observed under a microscope must be cut into very small pieces. Just pull out one. Can his microscope handle this thing? In fact, the entire sea wasp cannot be imaged with a microscope. However, Greet tried to hold up one of the strands underneath the sea wasp with his mage's hand, and actually stuffed it under the microscope. "Then what?" "Then you poke it." Idian squatted beside him enthusiastically, gesticulating. "This sea wasp, especially the young sea wasp, is very stupid. I just beat it again. You have to poke it. If you poke it, it will move. If you poke it hard, it will move. Can control water." Gretel summoned a mage's hand and poked the sea wasp's soft umbrella cover. In an instant, the strips under the umbrella cover began to wave violently. "Well, it flew out. Under the microscope, if you move even a little bit, it will be invisible. Let's start again and wait until I fix it firmly." Fix again, poke again, look again. The sea wasp waved the ribbon 20 or 30 times, then suddenly raised its head, sprayed out a stream of water arrows, and headed straight for Gretel. "Gretel! What did I see? Moving tower spirit, oak staff, did you just record it? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1392. Unfortunately, neither the moving tower spirit nor the oak staff captured the scene just now. In this regard, Gretel could only sigh. It's not that they don't work hard, it's that his master's setting is like this. Whether it is a mobile tower spirit or an oak staff, their storage capacity is not unlimited. Storing a picture takes up much different storage space than storing a video. Without Gretel's special settings, what they saved must be the chromosomes scanned by the microscope, and definitely not the flashes of light during the process. Gretel sighed. However, the extra small sea wasp was exhausted. No matter how much I poked it, it just lay there limply. It couldn't control the water, didn't spray water, and didn't even move its tentacles. There was no other way, so Greed had to stuff all its tentacles back into the bottle, throw it a small fish as a reward, and catch a second extra small sea wasp. However, this one was not as cooperative as the previous one. Greed even punctured the umbrella cover on its head, but failed to react. Greed patiently changed the third, fourth, fifth. Finally, a sea wasp responded to its expectations. While the tentacles were dancing and mist was flying on the water, Greed saw a line appear under the microscope. Light. Or rather, a gentle flash of light. They are extremely tiny and dotted, attached to the chromosomes under the lens, and are almost impossible to identify with the naked eye. Gretel asked the oak staff to bring up the shot, zoom in, slow down again. Finally, he saw clearly the gently flashing light spots on the chromosomes. To be precise, it doesn't look like a light spot, but more like some interference encountered during the shooting process of the microscope. Moreover, the flashing parts are concentrated on the chromosomes, those parts that shine with golden light. In other words, when the extraordinary power is activated, the parts closely related to the extraordinary have a different reaction under the microscope. Greed was extremely excited. Although he couldn't cut open the chromosomes, cut off the golden parts, and carefully measure their base pairs. There is no way to throw this chromosome into a measuring instrument, measure every part and every point of it, and absorb the difference in extraordinary power. However, relying solely on these images, he could surmise that extraordinary creatures rely on the points in their chromosomes that carry extraordinary power to activate extraordinary power. Of course, just an occasional observation does not serve as evidence. Next, Gretel caught the smallest and smallest sea wasps one by one, from the great-grandchildren, grandchildren, and sons. One by one, he picked up the tentacle silk threads and stuffed them into the microscope. Use the mage's hand to poke, lure them with food, roast them with the thread of flames, and stimulate them in various ways to let them activate their extraordinary power as much as possible. Then, take a video one after another, and a video of the sea wasp unleashing its extraordinary power at the same time. At the same time, a magic circle was set up to record the changes in the surrounding magic and natural forces, draw them into curves, and edit them into the same file as the video. After comparison, it can be seen that the time point when the extraordinary power is activated is basically the same as the time point when the golden part of the chromosome changes. As for the larger extraordinary spells, the golden part changes earlier than the time when the extraordinary spell is released. Comparing the environmental magic change curve, it can be seen that the time of magic change and chromosome change are basically the same. It can be seen from this that the extraordinary power of Warcraft is engraved in their chromosomes and is activated by their instinct. Greed quickly wrote one line, and then another. Sarala poked her head out from his shoulder, read it carefully, and couldn't help but say, "It doesn't seem like this. Some monsters are smarter. As long as you teach them, they can learn many kinds of spells. What do you say?" "Well, miss, the only experimental subject I have in hand now is Sea Wasp. The Warcraft you mentioned are all mid-level Warcraft and above, even high-level Warcraft. They are Warcraft that gave birth to self-awareness and wisdom. Even so, can they learn various departments and types of spells, or can they only learn a certain series of spells? These spells are innate to their race, buried in their blood, or they can be mastered through acquired learning. Can the spells learned and mastered be imprinted into the blood and passed on to the next generation? These are all topics to be studied. I also want to catch all the monsters for an experiment, but it's not possible. So far, humans can only confirm one thing: the magic learned by magicians cannot be passed on to the next generation. However, for some noble families, some of their skills buried in their blood may be inherited. For example, direct descendants of some noble families who advance to level 10 or above can master certain sword skills mixed with wind power in advance, and can fly in advance. A direct descendant of a certain Grand Duke's family has a special affinity with the power of the sun, and each generation of family heads inherits the title of Sun Sword Master. And a certain Earl family has special expertise in darkness and concealment. If these extraordinary beings could be used for an experiment, there would be particularly interesting results. However, Gretel cannot currently do this. He had no choice but to organize the materials, write the paper, and send one copy to the elves, one copy to the teacher, and one copy to his senior brother. The Lord of Thunder flipped through the revised paper, snorted, and continued to immerse himself in research. The subject of magnetic field detection was really too big, and he was distracted for a while. Greet was studying heart surgery before, but now he suddenly went to study chromosomes. Let him follow his hobbies and play whatever he likes. It depends on the little guy's age. It's not something he can't afford to waste if he wastes a year or two. Legend Baebo flipped through the paper and rushed over quickly. As soon as he stepped into the door, he immediately pulled Gretel up from the experimental table. Little Greet, what are you doing again? Why did you suddenly fall back? Are you encountering difficulties in your research? Do you want help? Do you want any help from senior brother? Greet raised his head and looked at his senior brother carefully. After advancing to the legendary level, senior brother Burbo looked more energetic, and he looked much younger. Most importantly, his hairline had recovered a lot. The only thing that was not normal was his eyes, which were shining and the light kept beating. At first glance, it seems that he is full of energy and can't control it. Apart from comparing your chromosomes before and after you advance to legend, I actually don't need any other help. Moreover, both chromosome samples have been obtained. Although he was so slanderous, Greet still honestly explained his research goals, research objects, and worries in the face of his senior brother's concern. Baebo laughed and patted him on the shoulder. What do I think is the problem? Isn't it because those monsters are too big and in bad shape to fit into the microscope? Let me teach you a way. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked at Idian with burning eyes. Idian was a little embarrassed by him. What's up? In what situation do you need me? Don't try to stuff me in. You are a legend and I am a legend too. You can't beat me at this distance. I'm not afraid of you. Catch a random monster and let him. Baebo confidently pointed at Idian. He himself has also advanced to the legendary level, and assigning work to other legends is not a waste at all. Let him cut a knife and cut off a thin, long strip. Whether it is cutting skin, meat, or anything else, as long as it can maintain vitality and have what you said, the chromosomes are fine. Then, put that piece into the microscope, photograph and observe it, and at the same time stimulate the monster, so that it can activate extraordinary spells. Isn't that the end? Hey, you won't be able to cut it, right? Of course it's not impossible to cut. Idian puffed up his chest. Is it difficult to cut a piece as thin as a jellyfish tentacle out of a monster's arms, legs, tail, or anything else? If he is a low-level warrior, or a mid-level warrior who does not control his power so delicately, then there may still be some problems, but he is a legend. Legend. As long as you change your weapon and don't use the hard and thick elf moon blade in your hand, you can definitely do it. This seems a bit too cruel. Instead, Greet hesitated. To observe chromosomes, keratinous parts such as hair and nails are definitely not possible. Viable cells are needed. And cut off a bloody piece of skin or meat from a monster, even if it can be grown back later without treatment. Well, when I think about it, it seems so cruel. It's unnecessary. It would be nice if there was an alternative. Or, even if you use some lower animals, you won't feel so guilty if you attack lower animals. Burbo sighed. his little junior brother is good at everything, but he is soft-hearted. The new legend thought for a moment. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. Send the paper out and send it back to Nevis, and someone will definitely rush to do it. As long as you don't do anything and don't dirty your hands, isn't that okay? The hesitation on Gretel's face became even heavier. Thinking of how everyone in the laboratory would scream after sending the paper back, he even had the urge to seal the paper and bury it completely. Beabo sighed for the second time. Okay, okay, you are not willing to hurt living things, but dead things are okay? I will teach you a way. Send this paper directly to the Mage Tower in the Kingdom of the Sun. The next day, Archmage Heinz, who was stationed at the Mage Tower, saw this brand new paper. We suspect that undead creatures may have a similar chromosomal reaction, of course, we are not sure. Maybe it is not the chromosomes that react, but other substances that respond to negative energy. Since the author only has skeletons on hand, and the bones of the skeletons have lost their vitality, this conjecture needs to be verified by colleagues in the necromancy department. Archmage Haynes. Praise be to the Lord of Plagues. A big topic is coming. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1393. Archmage Heinz quickly sent the paper back to Nevis and back to His Excellency the Immortal, and then plunged into experiments and research. Perform chromosome testing on undead creatures. Let those undead creatures branch out one by one, use various necromancy spells, and observe the changes in chromosomes in the process. Of course, the cost of studying chromosomes is extremely high. At least you need a microscope. Fortunately, there is no shortage of things like microscopy and electron microscopy in Black Crow Swamp. The entire Black Crow Swamp followed in the footsteps of the Plague Lord and ordered 10 microscopes in the first batch. What? A microscope is super expensive. What? To order a microscope, the core magic circle needs to be drawn by a high-level mage from Thunderhorn. What? To order a microscope, you still need to schedule it, and you need to pay the full price first. That's nothing. Order. A project like Chromosome has such potential. It is the next direction to produce a large number of results, so it's time to invest resources in it. Even Archmage Heinz, as far away as the Kingdom of the Sun, got one. This school of thought sent a special person to the Research Institute in Eagle Country, and then sent it here by a special person from the Research Institute. With an extremely rich material foundation, Black Crow Swamp immediately invested heavily in Gretel's previous paper on chromosomes and extraordinary factors after it was published. Zombies, cut out a piece of flesh and test. Death Knight, cut out a piece of meat and test it. Corpse Witch, cut out a piece of meat. Be gentle and don't cut out the brain. Cut the meat on the limbs as you like. Abomination, this requires cutting out a few more pieces of flesh. After all, it is a suture monster. The experimental records need to be checked. Each part of the original source must be cut out and tested. The necromancers didn't even spare the skeleton soldiers. If you are reluctant to dismantle the high-level dark gold skeletons and gold skeletons, then start with the low-level skeletons. Cut off the outer skin of the bone, and if it doesn't work, then cut it into another piece. If you can't get out the skin from a leg bone, just chop it into pieces and dig into the marrow cavity to see if there's anything left. What? Is the bone marrow cavity dry? The long bones of the limbs, not the top of the bones, but also some loose parts? Take it apart, dig it out again, crush it, soak it in physiological saline, and centrifuge it in a centrifuge. At least you can get something out and throw it into a microscope to see if you can see the chromosomes. After such violent dismantling, it was found that so few skeletons had chromosomes. Of course, the necromancers soon discovered that skeletons and abominations had the same problem. The same skeleton soldier has several completely different chromosomes. And some are men. Some are women, the necromancer who made the result complained angrily. This broken skeleton soldier didn't pick any of the bones he picked up to install on himself. No wonder it always behaves awkwardly when it advances. If it doesn't come from its own bones, why can't its power penetrate through it? It is said that His Excellency the Immortal is also very interested in this project, and even once wanted to pick off his own bones, knock out the bones and extract the marrow, and test his chromosomes. That is to say, he has advanced to the legendary level for more than 200 years. The skull and the spine dragged under the skull have long been completely dry, and the soft tissue cannot be scraped out with a knife. If we really want to get the chromosomes out, I'm afraid we have to grind the bones into powder, and then it's possible to toss out such a tiny bit of living tissue. The possibility is very slim. The investment was too huge, and the possibility of yielding results was too small. Therefore, His Excellency the Immortal's impulse was stopped by the disciples around him with cold sweat and desperate efforts. "Teacher, you don't have to do this. If you want to test, just test ours. We are all necromancers. We want to find out if there is anything special in the chromosomes that belongs only to necromancers and is deeply affected by negative energy. Just test ours. Teacher, please take care of yourself." The Immortal Lord regretfully gave up the idea of testing himself. Then, he was eager to try again and turned his interest to another necromancy legend, a zombie living in the dark sky of subspace. "Can you give me some body tissue? Just a piece of skin. Roll." The Immortal Lord sighed and drifted away. Without getting the experimental materials, he had no choice but to turn around and squeeze his disciples, and other necromancers who were interested in this direction. "What are you still doing? Have you finished comparing the chromosomes of zombie dogs and living dogs? What about zombie wolves and living demon wolves? After providing a large amount of negative energy to guide the advancement, have the chromosome changes been made? Have you found any way to guide your undead creatures to advance in a targeted manner? Or, guide extraordinary spots on chromosomes to achieve directional growth? Nothing at all. Why are you still hanging around here without me? Hurry up and do some research and experiments. Staying here one by one, why do you still want to listen to an opera?" The necromancers wailed and dispersed. "Teacher, although we are necromancers, we are also living people. If you are a living person, you must have some hobbies as a living person. Although most of my colleagues no longer like picking up girls, they don't really like listening to operas, and their tongues are too slow to taste delicious food. However, it's not illegal to gather together to chat, gossip, and exchange the latest skinned versions of skeletons, right? Just like this, I still have to push with all my strength. Look at the thunderhorn across from me, their mentor is not urging them desperately." "What? Their mentor went to Elf Island? That's okay. We cannot be allowed to go to Elf Island to do research. That problem belongs to His Excellency the Immortal, not ours." The necromancers cursed and scattered to work. Good news came from the sky. Another paper from the Plague Lord was sent, and this time they were designated to do it. "Quick, quick, quick. Drive all the zombies out. Drive them out." In the Tower of Sleeplessness, skeletons, zombies, and various undead creatures were driven away by the necromancers. No low-level ones. At least you have to be able to activate extraordinary spells. You. It's you. Pick up that zombie's arm. Peel off a strip of skin. Idiot. Why did you cut it off again? If you don't know how to cut, just find a knight. There is no knight? Isn't the Death Knight a knight? The corpse witch's skin has turned into leather? Can't it be made? Cut open its belly and pull out a piece of intestine. After the test, sew it back together. It needs to be sewed anyway. Let them line up. Line up. Make a comparison between undead creatures of the same level and type. Those who gather the power of death to raise them are divided into one group, and those who do not gather the power of death are divided into one group. Be sure to make a good comparison. Catch some naturally formed undead creatures. Compare the naturally formed ones with those made artificially. Hurry, apply for transportation routes and transportation time. And ourselves. Don't forget ourselves. It is said that necromancers will be eroded by the power of death and their bodies will change. Let's see if these changes will be reflected in the chromosomes. Queue up, all line up, come one by one, from the lowest level mage to the half-step legend, don't let anyone go. The necromancers spent all their time on experiments. When I was hungry, I squatted next to Abomination, and while I was dissecting until green water flowed out, I summoned the hand of the mage, stuffed a sandwich into my mouth, and poured water into my mouth with a glass of water. I was so sleepy that I couldn't open my eyes. I found a corner out of the way and fell down on the spot. I disliked the lack of pillows, so I dragged a zombie over and let it stretch out one of its thighs to cushion it. What? Dirty. Smelly. What does the cleaning spell do, and what does the bubble spell do? How can a magician who can skillfully use spells be troubled by dirty smells? Under such intense research, good news soon spread from the Tower of Sleeplessness and the Necromancer's towers in other places. Whether it is zombies, undead knights, zombies, ghouls, corpse witches, abominations, even skeleton soldiers and zombie dogs, special existences are found in their chromosomes. In addition to the golden light that represents extraordinary power, a strange fragment can be found in the chromosomes of all undead creatures. This kind of fragment is particularly active when the necromancer controls undead creatures and launches extraordinary spells. When the necromancer gathers the surrounding death energy and pours it into the undead creature, it is also particularly active, and even tends to actively prolong it. When the necromancer endured the heartache, tore open the scroll and activated the holy light to shine on the undead creatures, it became active to an astonishing level. Under the microscope, every break started from these fragments and points. Based on the above research, we can conclude that after living creatures become undead, they do not completely lose their lives, but live in another way. After studying a group of mummies from the Kingdom of the Sun, Archmage Hines wrote hurriedly. They also have chromosomes in their bodies, and although cells cannot divide and reproduce, they still have related reactions, especially changes in segments and points. The proportion of these special fragments in the body of high-level undead creatures is obviously much greater than that of low-level undead creatures. Necromancers, especially high-level necromancers, also have related fragments in their bodies, which harm their health, but also help them summon the power of death. We have reason to believe that the necromancer's final leap to the other side, becoming a lich, is also due to the special fragments of chromosomes in his body that increase it to a certain extent. Understand this increasing process and know which fragments are safe to be infected, and the necromancer will be safer during the advancement process. He put down his quill and let out a long, leisurely sigh. As long as the undead creatures can be guided to evolve and mutate at the chromosome level, the power of Black Crow Swamp can reach a higher level. Of course, it would be even better if it could really point out a way forward for the necromancers. He sighed deeply and turned to the mummy on the experimental table. Among these guys, there are high-level, near-legendary beings, but when will he himself become a legend? Just as he was thinking about it, a wisp of black fire burst into flames. In the mage tower, the strong power of death was surging on the mummy's body, gathering towards him. Thanks to @rabbit for the 100 starting coins reward. Pia new book from a friend, Hogwarts, The White Devil. Love Moen, who had mastered the academic master point adding system, wanted to show off his talents, but his life plans were disrupted by an owl email. Moving stairs, talking portraits, a castle hiding countless secrets, the mysterious and gorgeous magical world opened the door to him. Behind the door are a lively and kind-hearted little witch, a kind and lovely old man, and the dehumanized Dark Lord. The Philosopher's Stone is the beginning of dreams, the Chamber of Secrets witnesses everyone's friendship, Azkaban is the beginning of darkness, the Goblet of Fire is the advent of darkness, the Order of the Phoenix brings regret to everyone, the Half-Blood Prince is Snape's confession, and the Deathly Hallows is the cruelest reality. However, there must be a better ending, right? Tom Riddle, accept the trial. The light flashed from the tip of the White Devil's staff illuminated the twisted face of the Dark Lord. Everything will be protected or saved. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 1394. Thank you, Plague Lord. You are the guiding light of Black Crow Swamp. You pointed out that there is no barrier between life and death, but the same path connects them. You told us that there is no need to hesitate, no need to be afraid, just move forward firmly and eventually reach the other side. Archmage Hines successfully advanced, and now he is only one final leap away from becoming a legend. Archmage Edgar successfully advanced and became a 16th level Archmage, and saw the ladder to continue upward. In the Necromancy School, a large number of undead creatures, under the guidance of the Necromancers, have broken through the shackles of the past. For a time, the entire Black Crow Swamp was singing the praises of the Plague Lord. When everyone meets, they will twitch their dry skin and show an ugly smile. Then, they will find a corner where His Excellency the Immortal may not be able to observe and whisper in a low voice. Praise be to the Lord of Plague. If Gretel saw such a scene or heard such a eulogy, he would definitely shout, "It's not me, I didn't, don't talk nonsense." However, he did not hear or see it, so after receiving the latest research results from the Black Crow Swamp from the Mage Tower, Gretel happily sent the next topic. Since there is a certain special factor in the chromosomes of undead creatures, and this special factor can resonate with the power of death and react violently with the holy light. So, can similar special factors be found among creatures affected by demonic aura? If it can be discovered, then what kind of breath can this special factor resonate with, and what kind of breath can it be affected by and gradually disappear? Of course, before sending this topic, Gretel had a thorough discussion with the elves, and at the same time, he invited the teacher and senior brother to serve as background. As expected, his proposal met with strong opposition from the elves. Send the demons' parts away? Send them away from Evermeet Island? No, this is too dangerous. Especially for those necromancers. Those necromancers are distance from death, distance. The elf who spoke and Gretel looked at each other and reluctantly swallowed the word evil. The school closest to death and negative energy. If you give these materials to them, God knows, will it cause even greater trouble? Greed frowned slightly. He had already thought about this issue before making the request to the elves. To be honest, Necromancer is indeed a school that is very easy to go astray. Studying corpses and undead creatures on a daily basis, and being immersed in the aura of death, makes their minds easy to become dark and withdrawn. Moreover, long-term indifference to death, causing death, or trying to save something from death may make some necromancers become unscrupulous. In this case, if you throw the devil's parts into their hands without any restrictions, it is tantamount to opening a dangerous door for them. What if someone uses this to summon demons? What if someone uses this to contact the entire small world outside the world rift, and tries to move it there? That's going to cause big trouble. Fortunately, Gretel already had a plan regarding this issue. He turned to look at the teacher, and the Lord of Thunder nodded steadily, indicating I already understand and support your approach. Looking at senior brother again, Baebo leaned back and crossed his fingers. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth and he said slowly. Then what can you do? You have been dealing with demonic auras and demonic curses for thousands of years, but you still haven't come up with a good idea. Little Gretel finally found a way to deepen his research to the chromosome level. He was not allowed to find helpers and was left to you. We can join in the research, the elder who participated in the discussion responded solemnly. Baebo smiled and shook his head. Oh, of course you can join the research. I also believe that little Gretel welcomes you to join the research. But the problem is that the necromancy school has its own uniqueness in expelling and dissolving alien energy. The elves have nothing to refute on this point. Necromancers are not only good at creating undead, but also good at scolding undead, and they are even better at extracting the breath of death from undead creatures. The aura of death and the aura of demons have much more in common than the power of nature or the light of the silver moon. Bringing the necromancers in will at least save you a lot of detours. Moreover, we can set enough restrictions. Anyone who wants to join this project must swear an oath to the mystery. For example, you are not allowed to use these things to resurrect demons, and you are not allowed to use these things to explore their origins. He said a few words casually, and saw the elf elder's brows frowning more and more. Finally, I couldn't help but interrupt. You can't do this. If I just think about your restrictive plan, I can come up with several loopholes and several ways to bypass it. Then you think about it. Burbo spread his hands and confidently dismissed the task. Restricting those necromancers from doing whatever they want is what you want, isn't it? You can spend more time, find more people to discuss with, and think about it carefully. It's okay to put forward 180 restrictions. I guarantee that as long as it's Little Greet's project, those necromancers will break their heads and dig in, even if there are too many restrictions. The elf elder thought about the other side of the ocean. Those necromancers held their notebooks and swore, the secret is above. I will participate in this project and will never read a few articles, turn a page, read a few more articles, turn a page again, turn a few more pages, take a sip of water to soothe your throat, and finally read that my throat was filled with smoke, and I reached out to the person next to me to ask for cough drops. The child is dizzy. Who is this legendary Burbo? He makes people swear an oath and imposes 180 restrictions. He has used the limited wishing technique before, and the most he has used so far is 59 restrictions. No matter how many restrictions there are, they can't stop those who are willing to take advantage of the loopholes, the elder said solemnly. This time, Greet continued the conversation with a smile. Yes, I think so too. So first of all, people participating in the project need to be carefully selected. Those with extreme temperaments, impure intentions, cut off future prospects, and those who are prone to extremes should not be allowed to enter the project. The elder moved his lips but stopped talking. This is not reliable, he thought. Human beings are too fickle. No matter how firm and kind-hearted people are, they have the possibility of falling. For thousands of years, the elves have seen too much. What's more, on the other side of the ocean, in the distant New World and the Kingdom of Kent, do you expect those necromancers to rely on an oath to supervise themselves? Ha! He might as well believe that all the necromancers would change their ways and join nature. If Gretel hadn't made great contributions to the elves during this time, and if it weren't for his teacher and senior brother, two legends sitting next to him, the elder might have started to complain. But now, he just paused and said in a deep voice. So, what about number 2? Second, I think we should introduce another school of thought and study it together with the necromancers. Which one? Thunderhorn. Senior brother Baebo blurted out. Your senior sister and the others probably won't have time. Thunderhorn's current focus is on atoms, nuclei, electrons, electric fields, and magnetic fields. Cooperating with Black Crow Swamp, they developed a microscope and electron microscope. It was already a bit reluctant. Let them study the devil's chromosomes. This is not professional. Of course, why Greet feels that this direction meets his professional needs is another matter. Little Gretel cannot be judged by common sense. Of course it's not Thunderhorn. Gretel was confident and smiled slightly. This research will eventually come back to the treatment of the eldest prince, and the elves most easily use the power of nature. I think that introducing priests from the natural god religion will improve the research efficiency. The elder raised his eyebrows slightly. Beside him, Baebo was already happy and said, "This method is good. Even if you don't believe in the magicians of the council and the priests of the god of nature, you should be able to believe it. With them watching, they can guarantee that the necromancer will not go astray." The elder refrained from frowning. Strictly speaking, the priests of the god of nature and these nature walkers are not on the same route, but compared to other spellcasters, the routes are still relatively similar at least. He took a deep breath and exhaled. "So, what is the price? If they are unwilling to participate in this project and monitor the necromancer, what can we use to convince them?" "Wow." Greet opened his eyes exaggeratedly. "The price? Can the elves afford it? There are so many magics that use the power of nature, so much knowledge, so many products in the rainforest and Evermead Island. If you just miss a little bit, you can convince them. In order to heal the eldest prince, and also to heal the tribesmen infected by demonic aura in the past and future, wouldn't the elves be willing to pay this price?" As for Archmage Heinz, congratulations, he is already a level 19 Archmage, and if he goes one step further, he will become a legend. There seems to be no deistic people near the Kingdom of the Sun. However, aren't there a few forest guards in the elf forest, and some people are repairing the elf secret realm? If everyone can reach an agreement, wouldn't it be enough to just transfer one of them? The elder lowered his head and pondered, speechless for a long time. In the next few days, he held consecutive meetings with the elders of the Magic Academy, and solicited the royal family's opinions, and finally made a decision. Cooperate. Let's first talk to the Natural God Church in the Kingdom of Kent, and then let Greet be the mediator to talk to the Necromancy School. In short, while ensuring safety, if one more person joins, there will be more resources and more strength. What a good thing it would be to get results quickly and lift the curse on the eldest prince. Then, Archmage Heinz happily received the next topic. With just one sweep, he raised his eyebrows in excitement, and the ghost robe on his body whined, and 18 ghosts flew out and circled around him. There is a new topic. There is a new topic from the Plague Lord. Or study the devil's chromosomes, study the chromosomes under the influence of the Devil King. The Demon Lord, according to Gretel's explanation, is an existence beyond legend. Although the properties of energy are very different, the essence of energy is there. After thorough research on this wave, I'm afraid I won't be able to reach the legend directly. It's just, we're all involved in this kind of core research. Why don't you let us go to Yangju Island? Elves, you are discriminating. Discriminate. Thanks to @Ting07518 for the 1,500 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1395. Greet dumped the project very smoothly. On the other side of the ocean, there are countless necromancers and countless priests of the natural gods who are helping him with this project. Even the demon's body materials were all delivered by the elves, who brought their own dry food, corrected them, activated their own spells, and helped him work so hard. The first step is to use magic to turn the huge tree fruits with fruit pods into a group of strong albatross. With the packaged and sealed materials tied to their feet, they travel across the ocean to the secret realm of elves. On the second trip, after the elves in the secret realm received the package, they divided a small part and sent it to the Mage Tower in the Kingdom of the Sun, and at the same time participated in and supervised the research of Archmage Haynes. The third journey is to reposition these wooden albatrosses and let them cross the ocean again, heading straight to Nevis to find the fairy legends already in Nevis. Hey, there are a lot of manpower and resources to help him with this difficult, complicated, and expensive project. Why not do it? Even if he gives up all the rights to write, publish, and sign the paper, Gretel doesn't care. Is he leading this project just to write a thesis? In other words, for those arcane points? His arcane points should have been long ago. Well, I haven't checked them for a long time, but he should already be a 9th level arcanist. Besides, what meaning do arcane points have to him now? Subsidy. Is he short of money? On the elf side, he already has 3, well, it should be 4 direct legendary resources now. With the way he is currently advancing, he probably won't be able to use any of them. The right to redeem spells. Please, now in the entire Magic Academy of the Elves, the spell library is basically open to him. There are only things that he has no time to learn or cannot learn, and there is nothing that he is not allowed to learn. Exchange for high-level magic equipment and magic weapons. This, to be honest, he really doesn't lack. During this period of time, the thank you gifts he received for treating the elves had already piled up in his residence. Only legendary level equipment and weapons require special use of credits to redeem them. But Gretel feels that the contribution he made to the elves before leaving Evermeet Island should, maybe, be able to exchange for several pieces of legendary equipment without using his current quota. As for research, since Greet came to Evermeet Island, or in other words, since he left Nevis, all his research has not cost him even a single copper plate. Those who gathered the natives, those who gathered the bull demon king, those who gathered the eagle god and the snake god, those who gathered the elves, those who gathered the sun god, Greet was very confident that he could continue to do so in the coming days. Anyway, there are so many people in need of treatment, huh? When did you see the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the Johns Hopkins Hospital, etc., lacking research funding? There is great fear between life and death. Rich people are afraid that one day they and their families will become seriously ill, so they donate a lot of money to them. Therefore, Greet, who feels that he is very rich and does not lack anything, his only goal at the moment is to work hard on his current research. First, take the tasks apart, decompose them, set goals, and throw them to the necromancers and nature priests. Ah, praise the teacher, praise the Lord of Thunder, who may now be renamed the Lord of Electromagnetism. If the teacher hadn't developed the electromagnetic wave analysis magic for transoceanic communication, he would have to communicate with the other party about the research progress day by day, and he didn't know how many energy crystals he would have to consume. But now, as long as we make an appointment and communicate regularly every day, we can chat for an hour at a time without feeling distressed. With such help, the work of analyzing the devil's aura and analyzing the affected points on the chromosomes is progressing in an orderly manner. Although the speed is not fast, it is not too slow at least. After all, there are so many necromancers, and so many nature priests, working tirelessly. Their level is higher than Gretel's, their basic skills are better than Gretel's, and their magic skills are more comprehensive and extensive than Gretel's. When so many magicians work together, there is no doubt that the efficiency is dozens or hundreds of times higher than if Greet was buried alone in the laboratory. With her hands free, Gretel was able to focus most of her energy on the effect of the devil's aura on the body. The rabbit infected by the devil's breath becomes larger in size, darker in color, more black and gray. The food range has broadened, and it can eat bark, tree trunks, meat, bones, and even soil and rocks. The hair becomes hard, and more metal elements and silicon elements are detected from the hair, the skin surface becomes hard and armored, and the teeth become sharp. The structure of the stomach changes, and a structure similar to chicken gizzards grows, which can powerfully grind hard objects eaten. Gastric juice mutates. Gretel dissected one after another, studied one after another. Hair, skin, muscles, bones, internal organs. Every time one is dissected, tissue sections must be carefully cut out and placed under a microscope for observation. Use acids, bases, dissolve them in various solutions, or burn them into ashes, and measure their elemental composition. Of course, the most important thing is to observe their hearts. Heart. Heart. Experiment number 11. The heart structure is normal and there is no mutation. The mobility and combatability have increased, the myocardial contraction and relaxation capabilities are stronger. Experiment number 12, the heart structure is normal. Experiment number 13, normal. Greet held his head, Greet squatted on the ground, and Greet pulled his hair. Why does each test subject either twist, struggle, and explode into a ball of black flesh and blood on the spot, or become stronger and more ferocious, with stronger abilities to absorb food and fight? Why, none of them show signs of illness, congenital heart disease or other congenital diseases, or are about to die? Is there something wrong with my experimental method or with the materials used in my experiment? Is it possible that the creatures contaminated by low-level demons are just soldiers, developing into powerful thugs, while the creatures contaminated by high-level demons, or even demon kings, will show various strange mutations? Do I need to take out some precious demon king flesh and blood to contaminate these animals and see how they are doing? Gretel went back and forth, struggling with 100 rabbits, and finally made up his mind and applied for a high-level demon flesh. Instead of using the Maharajas, use the high-level demons first and see what happens. Then, he saw bang, 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 in the rabbit cage in the laboratory, the newly born baby rabbits exploded one after another. Next, there is the pregnant female rabbit, struggling to her death. Next, there is a strong male rabbit, his eyes glow red, and the muscles on his body are bulging, pulling the bones into terrifying shapes, growing sharp claws and fangs, and even trying to grow wings. Finally, I didn't know where it was growing, so I screamed and exploded again. Well. Greet let out a long sigh, flew a sealed box in, and activated the cleaning technique like a whirlwind. Sweeping all the disintegrated flesh and blood into the box, and having someone take it out and bury it, a man squatted in front of the experimental table, thinking silently. This line of thinking doesn't work again. Is it because the aura of high-level demons is too strong for ordinary rabbits to bear? So, should we look for high-level monsters as experimental subjects, or should we dilute and seal the materials of high-level demons, only let out a little breath from the seal, and try again? By the way, in what way does this kind of breath pollution occur? He's tested it in every way he can think of. Light, heat, electricity, magnetism, and even cloud chambers, none of them can detect demonic aura. There are only magic circles, only certain special magic circles. Mage Nordmark, Mage Nordmark. Someone knocked on the door outside. Gretel didn't look back, and with a snap of his fingers, the door opened automatically. Kusa Oak strode in with a worried look on his face. Mage Nordmark, the Academy asked me to pass on a message, please slow down the speed of creating demonic animals a little. How? Natural is not incapable of digesting animals infected by demonic aura, but there is a limit to the speed. Kusa Oak cautiously observed the change in Greet's expression. It would take a large forest, or a small woodland led by an ancient tree, to digest such a box of animal flesh and blood safely. Kusa Oak made a gesture, and a virtual sealed box appeared in front of him. Digesting them slowly is good for them and can promote the growth of forests and nature, but if they are digested too much or too quickly, the forests and ancient trees will in turn be polluted by them. In recent times, you have been producing more and more contaminated flesh, and the quality is getting higher and higher. The forest land near the college is basically buried, and if it is buried farther away, it will be buried at the foot of the world tree. That's the world tree. It's the world tree that has always supported Yangju Island. Yggdrasil, which has been burned by the well of eternity and suffered all the time, and was finally freed recently. Greed knocked on the table subconsciously. Forests, nature, plants, especially powerful ancient trees, rely on natural power to decompose, digest, and absorb these demonic auras and flesh. Forces of nature. Yes, Prince Anio has had a steady supply of natural power from his mother's body since he was pregnant. After birth, during the growth process, especially when he was sealed in the ancient tree, there was always a strong force of nature nourishing his body. Therefore, those who were originally impossible to survive survived, those who were originally impossible to grow up grew up. What he needs to study is whether the chromosomes have mutated under the combined effect of the devil's aura and natural forces, what kind of mutations have occurred, and how the body's mutations are carried out. The most important thing is, can such distortions and mutations be intervened, treated, and eliminated? Kusa, he jumped up. Do me a favor. Let's design another set of experiments.